Everybody, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. I'm reading some angel cards for you for the week beginning November the 26th, the Monday, and running through to the Sunday, which is the 2nd of December 2017. So let's start shuffling and we'll see what comes up. What messages the angels have to tell us this week that can help us make good decisions, and which can also flag with us things that we need to be aware of for the future. So just remember, if a card comes up and you're like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that, it might be that they're sort of putting something in the back of your mind that will become important later on down the track. And sometimes people have told me that the card doesn't really resonate for them, but they've realised it's helpful for someone else. So that could also be going on. So we've got, for Monday, we've got teaching and learning. So I don't know about you guys, but I go straight to like a classroom kind of scenario with this one, but that's actually not really what it's about. We're all engaged in a process of learning. That's our job as human beings. We're here to learn and grow. So it could be talking about life lessons. It could be asking you to be reminded the situation you're in, although not altogether pleasant, is probably because you've got to learn something from this. I always say the quickest way to get yourself out of a situation that you don't like is to look for the lesson. Because once you learn the lesson, it'll go away. Nothing goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. Bearing in mind that things can go through waves, so sometimes we can sort of feel like we're getting better, particularly in something like grief or anything like that. You can feel like you're making progress, and sometimes you can be lunged back down again. So, plunge back down again, I should say. So bear in mind that sometimes it's not quite that simple. I do oversimplify these messages sometimes, I know. Now, for some of you, this might be a card that you need to take on some teaching. It can be more informal teaching, such as mentoring someone else, being a role model to someone. It might be that you've got an opportunity at work to do this and you're doubting whether you're good enough. You are good enough. It might be that you've been thinking about doing some workshops or some courses or something, and this is telling you, yeah, some more formal learning would be helpful for you. So as always with these cards, you've got to bear them in mind with where you're at in your life, what's coming up for you right now, and most importantly, what your intuition is telling you. So, but as I say, if you're not quite sure yet, just wait. It'll come up down the track. And I always tell that to people when I'm doing personal readings for them as well. Sometimes the card is just like, they're like, yeah, I kind of get it, but I'm not sure. And then often I'll get emails later on down the track. So I figured out what that meant. This happened, and now I get it. So yeah, sometimes they're not crystal clear. Well, they are, but we're just not quite there yet. So I'm going to change the deck I was shuffling because I wasn't feeling it. So this one, actually the first card deck I ever bought back in 2007 when I was in Dublin. Random fact for you. Long before I decided I was going to end up doing this professionally, that was quite a recent development. So Tuesday, sweetness. So sweetness, a lot of us are very bad at giving ourselves pleasure. We are all about the obligations, the duties, the ticking lists, the fulfilling tasks, and that's very understandable if you're a parent. But this card reminds you there's a lot of joy in your life, and to make sure you don't steal the pleasure from it. So sweetness, obviously the idea of sugar comes to mind, but we want to try and think of ways that are healthier to give ourselves some pleasure. So it might be booking a holiday, or it might be something like taking yourself somewhere you've always wanted to go, or getting a new book from the library. I love getting a new book and reading it. Especially the smell. I love that new book smell. That brings me a lot of pleasure. It might be legally downloading some songs from your favourite band. I don't know. Anything like that. Something that brings you some sweetness. There's quite a strong nature element in this card. And, so being around animals and being outdoors can certainly be part of that. I realise in the Northern Hemisphere that's not so easy for you to do, but here in the Southern Hemisphere it's prime time to be outdoors and to be loving life. So don't keep putting it off. That's very tempting. I'll wait till I've got time and then I'll go to that beach that I wanted to visit or whatever. Don't do that. Make it a priority. You never find time, you make time. Chaos and conflict. It sounds so dramatic, this card. I don't know how well you can see this beautiful illustration, but it's showing a transformation basically. So there's a zebra with the stripes falling away, and underneath there's a giraffe coming through, which is quite random. But if you think about the idea of transformation, it's we shed a skin in some ways and become something else, which is why snakes can be a symbol of transformation, and also butterflies, of course. The caterpillar doesn't know what's going on. It goes into the chrysalis because it needs to. It doesn't know why. It doesn't know that it's going to emerge a beautiful butterfly and have some wings and have some freedom. But that's kind of how what we're asked to do, really. We're asked to transform. We don't know how it's going to work out, but we need to have faith that it is going to work out and it is necessary. We are here to grow, as I said earlier. So the card Chaos and Conflict is telling you that this drama you're going through is probably necessary for your growth. Now, sometimes dramas happen that we inadvertently cause ourselves. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about things that have been thrust upon you. And that doesn't mean they're not still difficult situations and adverse events, but maybe there is something in there that you need to learn and that you will be better for it. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, which is a bit of a, I guess a bit reductive, but there is some element of truth in that what we go through that really challenges us, if we're doing it right, we evolve as a result. If it keeps happening, we probably haven't got it. So look at how things need to fall apart in order to rebuild. They need to break down in order to break through. I think that's how the saying goes. So a great example from my own life that I always give was being made redundant, which is an adverse event. In New Zealand, where I live, you don't get a redundancy payout. So losing your job with no money is not a great situation. And it's happened to me 3 times. And that's what I needed to go through to learn. I actually don't suit being an employee. I'm better at being self-employed and doing my own work and being my own boss and being able to have some variety in my work and doing work that stimulates me. So that was not a fun lesson, but it worked out, as you can see. And so, yeah, redundancy, because that's a job loss that's often thrust upon you by economic forces or a boss's whims or anything like that. So, yeah. I don't want to take anything away from what you're going through. If you're going through a difficult situation, particularly some sort of loss, I know that's really difficult for you, but a long way down the track, and you probably can't see it yet, something good will come from this. That's generally how it works. Sometimes we never do figure it out, though, I have to say. I had a situation last year. I know I'm going off on a tangent. You might want to fast forward about 30 seconds if you don't like my tangents. Last year, I had a period of about 3 months where I had very little work. It was really tough, and I haven't really had that the whole time I've been self-employed. And it's a busy time of year. There was no reason that I could see that I was suddenly not getting a lot of work. And I tried so hard to look for what the universe was trying to give me in that situation, because instead of saying, why is this happening to me? It's always best to flip it around and say, why is this happening for me? I knew there was something good in there. I just couldn't see it. And it's only now, later down the track, I've been able to see that period was what I needed, not just to rest, but to give me some ideas that I'm acting on now. And when I was too busy in the thick of things, I couldn't see that. Yeah. Anyway, Bridget, don't back down. This is for Thursday, the 29th of November. Don't back down. It's all about not compromising. Now, I'm not saying you should. Sometimes this card sort of implies it's my way or the highway, and it's not really about being aggressive. It's just meaning don't let anyone push their opinions on you and push you into their way of doing things. It's really important that you stand your ground here, and particularly if what's going on is to do with is contradicting your values system, you must stick with your values. If you believe in being treated fairly, for example, and someone tries to take away your rights at work or something like that, you must absolutely stand up for yourself. Ideally, we want to be doing that in an assertive way, not an aggressive way, which doesn't really work. So, because then we're in attack, and this attack and defense kind of situation. But it's the words here, stand up for what you believe is right. Those last 3 words, believe is right. That's really important. You're not just digging your toes in to be difficult, or just because you're always stubborn, or not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, or just to, for your own ego. It's because you know that what you're standing up for is really important and it matters. So that could even be anything like a cause or I don't know, some sort of political issue or something like that. If it is an argument over politics, by the way, just remember that you can't reason with someone who's unreasonable. So make sure it's not all about trying to win in that sort of situation. I'm sure some of you in America would have had some, over Thanksgiving, you might have had some political debates with family members that didn't go so well. So Friday, ask Archangel Michael to help you with this situation. Archangel Michael is my spiritual bodyguard, and he can be yours too. He's available to work with all of us, all at the same time. He's separate from your own guardian angels who are assigned to you personally. They're like an upper realm of angels that work with everybody, and they're able to be with everybody at the same time. So do not think you are taking them away from something or someone more important with your request. So you can ask Michael for strength, for courage, for confidence, for protection if you're feeling uneasy, just for some support. Sometimes in my sessions with clients, they can be a bit emotional and clients can get upset in a good way. I mean, I'm not aggravating them, but it's because it's bringing up some deep emotions that need to be dealt with so that the healing can happen. And one of the best things I ever learned from my spiritual healer is to ask Archangel Michael to put his arms around your stomach. You can really feel that. It's so soothing, and obviously it's not fixing the problem. You still need to work through the problem, but it is going to help you feel comfort, because often when we're really provoked in those situations, we feel like we're alone, and that's not a place, it's not easy from a place of feeling isolated and like you're out there on your own, to make good decisions for yourself and to feel safe enough to move forward with what you know you need to do. So for some of you, this is relating to a specific situation you're facing right now. For some of you, it's just a general FYI, Michael is here, he loves you, and he wants to work with you. I think I've explained to you guys before that angels don't actually have genders. I say he because Michael is more often depicted in a masculine sense, but they're not human, so they don't actually have a gender. It's easier sometimes to go with what people are used to. They don't have wings either, but they've always been depicted with wings because they don't need to fly. They're not humans. They move around. They're a force of energy, but they know that we identify with that because that's how they've been depicted. So that is why they will often leave feathers as signs, because they know that we associate them with having wings. Anyway, there's another little tangent for you. So even if you're not feeling like you've got something going on right now that you need Michael's help with, you can talk to him for anything minor, like a boost of confidence to apply for a new position or something like that. Even if it's not coming up right now, it might be later down the track, and you can remember that he's there to help you. So Saturday, is that right? Yeah, that was Friday the 30th, and now we're on to the 1st of December, Saturday. Okay, this is happening. It's taking a really long time. It's not very fun to watch someone just shuffle cards, is it? And get nowhere. Here we go. There's a card sticking out, finally. Finally, cut your cords. Oh, here's Michael again. So as you can see, always depicted with that very strong kind of warrior energy. And that's why I call him my spiritual bodyguard, because he's a protector as well. And here he's carrying this sword of light. So the sword of light is something that can be used. It's when I'm calling on him to give me a shield. I've talked about shielding a lot, so I won't go into that. He uses his sword of light to create that bubble or shield, energetic shield around me. And he also uses that to cut cords when we've got attachments we need to be freed from. So, I do a lot of this cutting cords work in energy healing sessions. I don't know whether it's something you guys can do on your own. I've tried doing it before I learned energy healing, and I didn't have much success with it. Sometimes that's because what I was trying to cut the cord with, I wasn't actually really let go of. So an example would be an ex. If you're trying to cut the cord between you and an ex, if you still have feelings for them, or you still feel like you've got regret, or you're not quite ready for closure on some level, even though you may really, really want to be, it's just not going to work. So that's just a sort of disclaimer before we start with this. But it is asking you to break up with something that's not working for you. It might be a friendship in your life that's just not it's more draining than it is invigorating, because it's an obligation and you're not really connected anymore. You're too distant. Or maybe it's a habit you've got. You keep relying on a certain food or a coffee to pick you up, and it's not really working anymore. I had this with coffee. I never tell people to quit coffee. I know some people really do, like Doreen Virtue, the creator of these cards, is very strong on coffee's not good for you if you're working with angels or anything energetic. But I think if you're not experiencing any difficulties from coffee, keep going. For me personally, I am sensitive to it, so I did have to stop. And the reason I knew I had to stop is because I was at one point drinking 5 cups a day, and coffee, by the way, if you live in America, is very strong in this part of the world, in Australia and New Zealand. So that's a lot of caffeine. And I wasn't getting an effect from it. I still felt like I needed more. And yet, so my body was it was tolerant of it in terms of the caffeine wasn't actually giving me the stimulant kind of effect that I needed, but it wasn't good. It was so sensitive that it was actually making me feel a bit sick and not, and disrupting my life in other ways in terms of I had headaches if I didn't get it, that sort of thing. Although technically, caffeine is not considered an addiction, but it is something you can certainly become dependent on. I learned this when I did a story about it once. But anyway, I digress. If you're doing something or you're depending on something and it's not actually working for you anymore, and it's not really right for you, you've got to trust your intuition on that. Maybe you need to break up with that. Sorry. I love coffee. I miss it so much. And if you love it too and you're not getting any adverse effects, keep going, I would say. You're an expert on your body. I'm not. So I don't give health advice in that sense. You must trust your body and your intuition. Some other sort of attachments that could come through here, there could be ideas that you have about yourself. If you always saw yourself as the CEO of the company, but you're no longer enjoying the type of industry you're in, maybe you're struggling to kind of let go of that idea because you'd attached an idea of you holding value if you had that position, and now you feel like you can't let go of it. Or maybe you're attached to the idea, I have to be in a job for 2 years because that looks good on my CV. I can't leave, even though I know this job is totally wrong for me. So any kind of ideas you have about yourself, maybe that's what you need to let go of. I'm just throwing out examples here. So, you guys know how to relate it to your own life. Yeah. And again, if you're just not quite ready to let go, that's okay. Sometimes the reason we're not ready to let go is because there's some deeper work that needs to happen under there. And that's why I mentioned the energy healing, because sometimes the reason we're attached to a person that is not right for us is because of some sort of limiting belief we hold about ourselves, particularly in relationships I'm talking about here, which is really what I do a lot of work on in my energy healing work. And particularly... it could also be tied to some deeper level fears or energetic imbalance there. Assertiveness. I mentioned assertiveness earlier. Sometimes people think assertiveness means aggression. It doesn't. So when you're standing up for yourself, so obviously that's a big theme because this is the second card on that note. When you're standing up for yourself, if you're calling someone names and attacking them personally, that's not assertive, that's being aggressive. So being assertive means you're very firm, but you can still be kind with it. You don't have to give the person compliments or anything like that or pat their back, but you do have to say, I understand how you feel, but this is important to me, so this is what I'll be doing. Particularly when it comes, this is sort of boundary setting work here as well. When it comes to someone asking you to do something that you do not want to do, if you struggle with boundaries, the best piece of advice I can give you is to buy yourself some time. When someone puts you on the spot, that's probably the time you're most likely to go, sure, I'll help you move your house and all your animals and look after your kids for 2 weeks, whatever. Just say, I'll have to think about that. Let me check my diary and come back to you. If you can buy yourself some time, you'll have more time to garner some strength and go back and say, that doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, I can't do it. In general, you wouldn't want to apologize because you're not, you might feel compelled to apologize because you might perceive that you're letting them down, but you don't want to apologize for having your own life and having your own interests. And you don't have to give a reason. Some people really struggle. I need to give an excuse. You don't. Just say, no, that doesn't work for me. I don't have capacity for that right now. No is a complete sentence. That's a quote I once saw on Instagram. It's a good one. Just say no. It's all you need to do. And again, be assertive about it. Don't give them any leverage or anything to throw back at you. Yeah, which is something you can inadvertently do if you try to give excuses like, I'm just not feeling well. Because then they'll come back to you the next weekend. Are you feeling better now? How about this? So yeah, just say no, that's not going to work. It's about also standing up for your truth. And I mentioned values earlier. So being assertive about that. No, this is important to me. So that is why I'm going to continue with what I've chosen to do. I think I've probably talked about that enough now. Let's do a summary for the week. So standing your ground and being assertiveness has come through strongly already. We've got, I guess what I would say, we've got some ideas about looking at the bigger picture, as vague as that sounds. So looking for the lesson in what's going on and understanding that sometimes things need to break down in order for new things to rebuild. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't be sad about the loss of something. Going back to the job situation, you might well be sad that you're not working with the people that you really like there anymore. But try to understand that doors have to close so that new ones can open, and you can't have one foot in and one foot out. And I guess lessons that theme extends to this attachment message as well. So I guess with Michael coming through so strongly twice as well, we might be you might deduce that we need a bit of extra strength for this week. So whatever that looks like to you. That's it for the week. Thank you for watching. As always, I will put each card on my social media. My Facebook page is called One Grounded Angel. You don't need to be on Facebook to watch to see my Facebook page, by the way. Just hit www.facebook.com/onegroundedangel, one word. And my Instagram, of course, is @onegroundedangel. That's ONE, not the numeral 1. So thank you very much for watching. And if you do have any questions or you want to make a booking or anything like that, you can find out all the information on my website, which is www.onegroundedangel.com. Thank you very much and have a terrific week.